Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Hogan.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Righto, Sportos, here we go. A couple more episodes of the DSPN podcast. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh before we break for the Christmas New Year period. Now, during that period, we are actually recording some interviews, some long-form chats at the moment, and we'll be dropping one or two a week until we come back full-time on January the 13th. We're also looking for sponsors, people. We've been going 6 weeks now. We're building momentum. We've got a really good audience base, and if you can help, or if you know anyone that can, squeeze a little bit of cash our way and keep this thing going, well, DM us. We're all over social media. Martin Devlin _DSPN on Instagram and TikTok, Martin Devlin NZ on Twitter, or message us on the YouTube channel DSPN. And don't forget to hit subscribe as well. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by Christmas. That would be magnificent. Thank you so much for that. Special guests on the show today. Simon Doull out of England, wrapping up the cricket year. Not just the Black Caps versus England, but his highs and lows, and looking forward to next year. Jamie Wall joining us, the most independent, trusted rugby writer in this country. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Let's prioritise next year's All Black schedule. I'm about to do that in the sermon as well. Brendan Telfer, the doyen, 50 years broadcasting experience. He wraps up his highs and lows of the sporting year for us too on this podcast. We begin the show the same way every day, which is pontificating from the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
This will come as no surprise. Beat the Boks. That's the number one priority for the All Blacks next year for me. My wish list goes like this. Beat the Boks twice. That's number one. Beat the Irish in Chicago. Retain the Bledisloe Cup. Win the Foe Grand Slam. In that order. First and foremost, beat the Saffers at Eden Park and preserve our magnificent unbeaten record, which stretches all the way back to 1994. But it's also really important to beat them twice, because if we do, we automatically wrestle back a bit of world supremacy. Then it's the Irish in Chicago. And the Irish, in my mind, have become a bit like the Poms, maybe the new Poms. I want to smack them hard, put them in their place. And that's, again, really important because they've got a bit whiny and a bit uppity of late. Well, that's the perception anyway. And I mean that with love in my heart. Then the Bledisloe Cup, which is easily the easiest tick on the wish list. No disrespect intended, but it's just the way it's all set up, with them having to beat us twice in a calendar year to win it back. And let's be honest, the day that happens where we lose back-to-back tests to the Wallabies, we really are in the crapper. After all that, then comes the end-of-year tour. Always a tough ask, with 3 away matches in Wales, England and Scotland in consecutive weeks after we play Ireland and Chicago. The 3 home tests against a depleted French side are a warm-up for all the above, a chance to get form and selection settled before we play the Boks. So I'm not underestimating them, but it's a series that we should win 3-0. So again, it's a hell of a schedule, and at least as difficult as this year's was, and another awesome opportunity to really measure how good we are and how deep our squad depth really is. But if I had to prioritise, choose one above all the rest, it's beating the Boks, and especially that September 13th blockbuster Eden Park test.
Devlin.
Always an absolute pleasure on this side of the microphone when we get our good mate Simon Doull back on, wrapping up the year's cricket for us. He's in London at the moment. Big busy year for you, my friend. And of course, it's summer down here as you're basking in a glorious, snowy English Christmas winter.
Yeah, very cold, Marty, but that's right. Just been up to Scotland, actually. Spent a couple of days up in Scotland, played St Andrews and the Jubilee course up there. We had a bit of a windy day Monday, I must say, but we didn't get any rain. So thankfully it was fantastic. But a winter golf in Scotland, it was brilliant.
Well, you're expert eye and ear on everything that you've seen this year. Let's start with that Black Caps England series and also the Black Caps year. It was just a weird series, man. 3 test matches where each side that lost got absolutely thrashed.
Yeah, it was a bizarre one to watch, wasn't it? You kind of thought, I guess we all hoped after the India series that New Zealand would be very competitive. They were just completely bullied out of it and outplayed in the first couple of test matches. Didn't even look likely. There was maybe a moment in the first test match where you thought they had some kind of parity, but it just didn't eventuate, and England kind of bullied them out of it. And I didn't think there was a lot of resolve shown at different times. And, it was a tough one to watch because you had high hopes. When I looked at the World Test Championship and the qualification possibilities, you sort of thought we could beat Sri Lanka maybe if we could steal a test off India and then try and beat England 2-0, 2-1
At home. Yeah, yeah.
we would have a chance. But to do what we did to India after losing in Sri Lanka and then to go home with an opportunity to maybe have to win 3-0, I get that. But it was just a disappointing effort, I think, those first couple of test matches. And, was it selection? Was it all down to... I know there's been a lot of outcry about Tim Southey, and some of it I agree with. But if you're a player, it is not your fault, that you're getting selected. I think the selectors and the coach have got a big part to play in that. Do I think he should have played all 3 test matches? No. Should he have been able to choose when he went? Probably not. But I don't believe it's his fault by any stretch, and he's had an incredible
So as a
career.
player, and look, and I was going to ask you about this because I've been pretty vocal about that. Look, I love the guy and love the guy's career and everything else, but to me, sport is about the now. It's not about what happened yesterday. And you were left on 98 test wickets, and I'm still bitter about that because I thought you should have got a bowl, and a lot of us fans did. And that wasn't a sympathy bowl. You would have deserved to play that test, but at the same time, it was like, oh God, that's a really piece of unfinished business. It's not the same, but it's kind of similar. But as a player, you don't care. You just want to play, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. You just want to play, and you want to get out there and perform, and that's the key for me. I think the selectors and the coach, or the selector and the coach, have been found wanting massively in the last little while. I mean, we go back to that T20 World Cup, which we talked a lot about. I don't know, we'll cover off the year and sort of review, but that was the start or the end of it for me. He'd lost the team at that stage when players were going home after the IPL, not going down to the Caribbean.
Yeah, having a holiday.
I think Gary
exactly
Stead had
right.
lost the team at that stage. And, this is just another incident of the fact that you're giving a guy a swan song rather than saying, you know what, I think your time was up a little while ago. Thank you so much for your services, but we need to move forward. It was just handled poorly. And again, it's not New Zealand cricket's fault entirely. I know Scott Winnick's still relatively new at the game. I don't think Sam Wells is a very strong selector at all. I don't think he can have a tough conversation. He's more of a guy that just wants to be mates with the players, and you can't be that.
Good.
You cannot be that
No.
when you're a selector. He's a bitter man when it comes to selection anyway, because he thought he should have played for New Zealand. And I think he just wants to be part of a team and be mates with the players, and that just doesn't work when you're a selector.
So, the highs and lows, you've just mentioned it there, so we don't have to rake over too much. I mean, obviously the T20 World Cup for me was just thoroughly disappointing. We didn't get a warm-up match organised. And again, that falls back to New Zealand cricket, the administration to me. The high is obviously the Indian thing. And then, Sri Lanka wasn't good. We played South Africa C or D. The Aussies comfortably beat us. So it's just been a year where I just think it's, the thing with, I always say, Simon, the table doesn't lie and the results don't lie. And you can sit there at the end of the year and go, what if this and what if that? But, ultimately, if you finish 5th, you miss out on the Champions League. You know what I mean? And that's that. The Black Caps results are there for all of us to see, right? That's who we are.
That's kind of where we are, and it's where we're at. And I wonder sometimes, too, whether because of what we had at times in that 19 World Cup, post that, pre that, at different times, some of the results we've had, our expectations can be inflated a touch for.
But that's good. Isn't it?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But for the size of the country we are, for what we put into the game, for the player pool and the talent pool that we have, I still think we fight very, very well on the international stage. We probably expect more. That was our best, that was our best side in 19, and you're not going to get another side like that for a long, long time, I think. And all those guys were probably in the best form of their careers at different stages through that 19-20 campaign. So, our expectations can afford to be high after we beat India, and then we go home and produce those two results, which sort of
drop a turd like that. Yeah,
it allows for the discontent and the sort of questionable look at the Black Caps, at the outfit, at what's going wrong. Think from the other side though too, Marty. I mean, Brendan McCullum had a bit of a point to prove. Ben Stokes probably had a bit of a point to prove, being back in New Zealand again. And I think there's a little bit to be said about that freedom that they play with. New Zealand should have known what was coming. But I think it rocked them a little bit as well.
So when you look back at the year for New Zealand, what's more significant, or is it an unfair question and they're both equal? When you get the T20 World Cup after the White Ferns had lost 10 in a row, and I had Leah Tahu on the program yesterday, and she said, and I love the fact she said, we deserve that criticism, which is good because that's what I want to hear from the players. Yeah. But then they won when it mattered most, and that's what sport is about. And then, we won 3-0 in India. So those are two huge highlights, but around all of those is not a lot else.
No, not a lot else. And look, you know Marty yourself, and you've talked to Sophie and to Susie Bates as well. And I haven't been the biggest fan of what the White Ferns have done in the last probably 18 months, 2 years. But I was immensely proud of what they were able to do.
Same.
I was surprised, got to say it. I was surprised, having watched them in England, beaten comfortably in the series here. You weren't sure. But when you turn up to a tournament, it is about each day. Beating India and that given day saw them through to a semi-final, and you've just got to keep winning. And it was an incredible performance. It really was. Yes, unexpected, but I'm not going to say it eclipses the 3-0 because I think for me that is still New Zealand cricket's men's or women's greatest ever achievement.
Yeah, totally, mate. Absolutely.
But the T20 World Cup for the women this year was not far behind it for me because of what had gone before. I think, and if
I can stake another big flag in the good that's come out of this year, his name is Will O'Rourke, and when you're watching a dude come thumping in like that, only 8 overs at your favourite ground, mate, and he's bowling 140s, 145s, and then he gets up to 150. That's what we want, isn't it? Shane Bond, welcome back, pal.
Yeah, with the height, with bounce, he does look a really good prospect for the future and for the now. Who else is there? I mean, if Ben Sears gets fit, great. I like the look of Nathan Smith in glimpses. I think he's got potential as a genuine all-rounder moving forward. I think he can bat, he can bowl. If Kyle Jamieson was able to get fit again,
yes,
that would be a fairly nice lineup. Think about O'Rourke, Sears, Jamieson, Henry still, in my book, one of our best bowlers in 50-over cricket and in red ball cricket. So you got some nice backups from that point of view. Changing captaincy in the white ball format is good. I like that. I think Mitch Santner is probably one of the best white ball spinners in the world as far as 50 over in T20 cricket is concerned. So that's a good move forward, a positive move. Where are our next batters? It's probably the concern. Where are the guys banging the door down from a batting point of view? Who's going to take over from the likes of Kane Williamson and those sort of players?
All right, a couple more. I know you got your throat, so I won't keep you too long, mate. Okay, so who wins now out of India or Australia? And again, look, this is what I love about Test cricket because I'm an old guy, and watching those two tail enders the other night battle 41 runs against. I know Hazelwood was out, but batting 41 runs in Brisbane, and you saw the way the Indian players celebrated that to avoid the follow-on, which has kept the series alive and gives them a chance with 2 to play. Who takes this out now?
Well, India's best chance now is Sydney. They've got the spin bowling attacker. If Sydney plays as it has done in recent times, turns a little bit, it's probably their best opportunity. They've got to get through Boxing Day at Melbourne first. If Australia win that, I think India get on the back foot. But Australia also know that they go into Boxing Day having to win. They would have expected to win in Brisbane. Weather obviously played its part there. But they would have expected Brisbane to be a really tough one for them. The real bonus for India is that without a lot of cricket in that Brisbane Test match, Bumrah is going to be rejuvenated.
Right.
I thought if he'd had to bowl a lot of overs in the first 3 Test matches, I thought he might have struggled a little bit at the back end. But not having to bowl too much and having a really good rest between Test matches, I think it's going to be really beneficial for him and for India. So I've still got Australia winning Melbourne. And if they do that, the pressure lumps fairly and squarely on India. And if Aussie win one more, even if it's a 2-2 draw, I don't think India make that World Test Championship because South Africa are going to be too good.
Another year of highlights to look forward to next year. We've got the Women's One Day World Cup and the White Ferns obviously knowing that they can go to these tournaments and win. We've got to give them a chance, a hell of a chance. And then you've got the Ashes, of course, with the Poms coming down under. Another big year of cricket. Mate, I just got to say thank you so much. for everything that you do for us. Love you to bits for it. Congratulations on you're going to have another beautiful little Dooley boy running around next year as well, which is a fantastic news as well. Have the very best festive season. Be really safe over New Year. And again, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate you so much.
Cheers, Marty. Thank you. And to everyone tuning in back home in New Zealand, all the best for Christmas, New Year, and stay safe. Drink responsibly, as we all should do, and have a great Christmas and New Year.
Next time I see you, that Barnet will be like this, mate.
It should be, mate. Yeah, it should be. Hopefully it'll improve.
Well, I began the show talking about the All Blacks priorities for next year. So mine. That's why we've got Jamie Wall on, the most respected and trusted independent rugby journalist in this country. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us again, mate. Hopefully the Achilles is healing. Now, for everyone of an age and stage, this is one of those great sports stories. You're playing AFL, the ball comes to you, you catch the ball, there's not a soul around you. What happened?
I just took the ball and tried to run off in a direction, felt a pop down in my ankle, and anyone who's had this sort of injury before will know exactly what I mean. But it was pretty bad. I've had to have an operation, and I'll be in a moon boot until about March. So that's my summer gone. No swimming for me, unfortunately.
I'm just texting Razor at the moment, so
I'm unavailable for. I'm ruled out of Super Rugby and the July series with injury, unfortunately. So. Aiming for a return for the Rugby Championship. I'll be
September the 13th. That's the day. Every single rugby fan in this country, and I reckon most around the world, have got that date ring, haven't they? Eden Park versus them, unbeaten record on the line. We can't hype this fixture enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the way it should be. So the Springboks are the All Blacks' greatest rival. They always have been. They always will be. There was a period of time sort of at the start of this century, when Springbok rugby was going through a lot of changes and things, and it looks like they've finally put everything together in the last sort of 8 years or so in order to get themselves to be right up there with the All Blacks as the All Blacks' main rival. And to be fair, it's something the All Blacks have been missing quite a bit in the professional era. This is a good thing for us, and it's a great thing that they've decided to play this game at Eden Park. Like, really, it couldn't have been anywhere else. The Springboks are two-time world champions. They come in having beaten the All Blacks, 4 times in a row. So really, there is. This is it. This is the biggest stage. It's the biggest fortress the All Blacks have, and I think the big priority, not just for New Zealand rugby, not just for the All Blacks, but for us in the media and for everyone else, is to make sure that all eyes are on this. All tickets are obviously going to be sold, but this is the potential to be the biggest event next year. Actually, the biggest event in this World Cup cycle in New Zealand.
No question about that. No question. And look, if you look at all the sporting fixtures for next year, this one stands above all the others. Rugby are national. Look, I don't have to explain this to anyone. What about Ireland? Because I rate them as being number 2 on my list. Only because, look, the Irish used to be great fun. They've stopped being great fun, aren't they? Because now they're serious, they're contenders, they absolutely rate themselves, and there's a little bit of spice attached when we play them now, or maybe even more than just a little bit.
Yeah, there is. I think it's taking New Zealanders a bit longer than the Irish to actually come round to this being a proper rivalry. I think that last game we saw in Dublin very much kind of said a lot about the way that New Zealanders feel about playing Ireland now, that you can't take anything for granted, and that it was the biggest game of that, or arguably the biggest game of that tour, and the relief and the satisfaction that not just the All Blacks got, but All Black fans got out of that result said a lot about where we are in our relationship with them right now. So I think that game in Chicago is going to be huge as well. It's going to be a bit different because of where it is and the sort of crowd that it's going to bring.
Or narrow field, because it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's always a narrow field there.
And obviously there's a point to prove for the All Blacks there, because last time they were there, they lost. And I think that it's going to be a great occasion. I'm going to do my best to get there, and I think that it's going to kick off what's going to be a really intriguing end to the year for the All Blacks.
Look, anytime you go, up that end of the world and you're playing back-to-back-to-back tests, and we saw that this year as well. I mean, the legs get tired. It's just one of those things. You're touring together for a long time. I'm not making excuses, but, you get a test at the end of that year, which looks a lot harder than, and I wonder whether we'd played, long-winded way of saying, if we'd played France, say, when we played England in that tour, whether we would have actually beaten them. So it's not going to be easy. It's a kind of a faux Grand Slam. It's not a real Grand Slam because we don't get the Irish in Dublin. But again, I rate this alongside retaining the Bledisloe as, number 3 or 4 in my priority list. Getting that full slam. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the Bledisloe is a kind of a weird one, though, because it's so stacked in the All Blacks' favour. Like, really, like they kind of can't lose it unless they change the format of the way the Bledisloe is structured. And, of course, you got to remember that the Wallabies have their own massive event happening next year, and they're going to be throwing a hell of a lot of resources into that, and whether they're going to be able to back up after it. And if you remember at the last Lions tour, or even the last 2 Lions tours that came to New Zealand, like it sort of zapped the All Blacks a little bit. They didn't come out of it. It took them a while to kind of get out of that mode and move on to the next one. So that's going to be a great occasion, themselves, as Lions tours always are. But I think that while the Australian media are getting really excited about this Wallabies team under Joe Schmidt and the guys that are coming through, I think they've still got a long way to go, and I think they know that too.
How do we look at the 3 tests against France? I've got to remind myself all the time that, hey, a French supposed B team went to Argentina and won. Argentina, of course, split every series against Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand as far as the Rugby Championship went. So, the French always... there's that element that, are they going to turn up and be French and surprise us? Remember, look, way back in 2009, Jamie, they took a test off us then, and that was a surprise as well. We were dicking them 50 points in 99 before the World Cup. They turned around and beat us. So there is that, or is that just the romantic element of talking about French rugby versus the All Blacks?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that we don't get to watch French rugby here. And so we don't know if they name guys that we haven't seen play the All Blacks before. We know absolutely nothing about them.
Yeah, great point.
And so I think that for us to turn around and say, well, this is a B team or this is an understrength team, it might not actually be that accurate. Like you mentioned in 2009, there was some similar kind of feelings about that team that came down. Like, no one was expecting France to do anything away from home, even though they've won 2 series here. I mean, fair enough, going back to 1994, but anyway, I think that also understanding exactly why they're doing this, because it's not necessarily a B team they're sitting down. They're just not selecting players that are making the top 14. I think it's semis and finals, which is going to shave off a lot of their good players, and it means DuPont probably won't play because Toulouse are the best team
in Europe,
that they have. But I feel like they have a lot of depth to absorb that. And I think probably the better comparison to this would be the team that they sent down to Australia last year, because that was actually a really good series, like quite close fought series. Sorry, not last year, the year before. And yeah, okay, the Wallabies are the Wallabies. And yeah, it was always going to be a little bit closer than it would, say, against the All Blacks. But it's not like these guys aren't going to show up and try. But this is a great opportunity now, considering how difficult Scott Robertson's start to his career was with a very good England team. To come in with his now established group of players, pick some guys that have, made some compelling cases
Super Rugby
throughout
form and
Super
stuff.
Rugby,
Yep.
and really just go out and send a message by really giving them a hiding, because. And if we can just actually analyze this French team and go, actually, maybe they're not as bad as we think they are, then that's going to give those results a bit of context. I am a little bit disappointed that they're not taking a game over to the US because I think that worked pretty well this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I'd played in Fiji with the Fiji one, but I understand the France thing here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just guess it's like, okay, we can have a test in Hamilton, or you can do this and somewhere different, make a bit of money, sell some jerseys. I don't have an issue with that. I guess they get to do it later on in the year in Chicago.
Yeah.
But the one thing that annoys me the most about it is they're kind of letting a French team that, like I said, is sending down an understrength side, a French union, dictate where and when these games are getting played. And I don't think that's right.
All right, finally, and I think, for both of us on this side of the microphone and everyone that does this as a job as well, I think our responsibility, I'm not talking about hyping up Super Rugby, but I'm talking about jumping aboard Super Rugby. Look, it was a hell of a competition last year. We had lots of narratives, lots of good storylines. This time we had Rob Penny on the program last week. He says, put some money at the TAB on my mob, mate. So, the Crusaders are coming back, and that gives us all a reason to hate again, doesn't it? You got the Blues. Well, now they're going to get all up, and he'd knock them off their perch. Can the Canes come back? You got New South Wales, a reinvigorated squad. You've got MP have recruited, and it'll be interesting to see more than interesting to see how Artie goes with that lot. So, I'm really looking forward to that as well. I know it's a few weeks away and everything, and everyone bitches about, Super Rugby starts too soon, but, mate, right now, sitting here before Christmas, I am actually looking forward to this competition.
Well, Super Rugby's starting the same time it started for the last almost 30 years.
So get over it, everyone. Yeah.
If people are still pining for rugby starting later, then you must be really old. What also is getting old is, like you say, people whinging about the state of the competition. You're right. Last year was a really good competition. It had some really compelling storylines. Our team, the Hurricanes, who thought that they were going to end up being as great as they were
playing that style of rugby, mate.
Exactly. The Chiefs unearthed some great talent. One who went on to become breakthrough player of the year, and anyone who paid attention to them this year shouldn't really be surprised at that. There were some fantastic games. Yes, for the rest of us, watching the Crusaders go down was fun. As much as I'd like to make fun of Rob Penny, he's right. Like, you need to keep an eye on those guys, because there's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last year. But really, it's really, really good from someone who lives in Auckland to have a Blues team that's really connected with the public. They're drawing good crowds. Eden Park has become a fortress for them as well. And I think that, it's going to be really exciting. And for the people who say that it starts early, don't you like watching rugby in the sun? It's great. It's great going to Eden Park with the sun still up. So, let's talk about family-friendly kickoffs and things. It's because it's before daylight savings. So I think a lot of people who whinge about Super Rugby just like having a whinge, and it's about time they stopped, because it's a good comp. I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to have, 17 good weeks of the best domestic rugby in the world. Because I've watched some of that stuff from the Northern Hemisphere, and if you prefer that, I don't know what you've been drinking, man.
It was a little dirgy last weekend, I must admit. Again, my friend, thank you so much for all the time that you've given us. I always appreciate it, and I hope we actually let you know that as much. Have a really safe and happy new year for you and yours, and look forward to reconvening again in 2025.
No problem, Marty. Merry Christmas, mate.
This is the DSPN.
Righto, Lachlan, it's time to play your favourite game. One more time before Christmas, which is...
there's a lot of really bad things I could say with you do it. Okay, glass half full.
Glass half full. Hear it again, people.
Glass half full.
And this is all about the Black Caps and the Black Caps season. Yes! I'll present a name or an idea to you, or the team, and you tell me whether it's glass half full, glass half empty.
Yes!
Tim Southey.
Just in general?
Yeah.
What, at the moment, his form, his career? What do you mean?
Overall.
Oh, glass half full.
Yes.
He's been a spectacular servant for New Zealand cricket.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Good on you, Tim.
Yeah.
And
in terms of...
Actually, you know what? Full stop. No, full stop. Thank you, Tim. We don't need to be critical about his form. We don't need to be a bit unhappy with the fact that he may or may not, well, should or should not have been selected for this Test series against England. Let's put that to the side. Thank you, Tim.
Actually,
full stop.
All right. I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah.
Tim Southey, 380-something Test wickets. Never had a job in your life apart from playing cricket. Fantastic servant for New Zealand, and thank you.
Yes!
Oh, that's Christmassy, isn't it? Glass half full, glass half empty. The Black Caps' entire season.
Glass half. Oh, empty. Glass half empty.
See, I'm going glass half on this, okay?
Oh, because the India series.
Yeah. Well, you can't just write off the India series like that. The India series is the greatest achievement in New Zealand cricket history.
Let me put it in Manchester United terms for you. I'll speak your language.
Go on.
So Manchester United finished, let's say hypothetically, 9th on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very disappointing, poor results. They failed to make any European competition. Let's say you guys were in the Europa League, hypothetically. I don't know what you're in this year. You don't even get out of the group stage. FA Cup, you lose your second round match away to Birmingham or something.
We started in the third round, so that's not going to happen.
Hypothetically, but you managed to get to the League Cup final. and you go to extra time and you lose in a competitive fixture against Man City. Is that a win for you? Is that glass half full or glass half empty?
Okay, I think it would be better if you said, okay, all of those things, but we won the Europa League final, which would put us in the Champions League, and I'd say that's glass half full.
You win the League Cup. No, you win the FA Cup. Okay, so last season.
Yeah, I would have said glass half, you see, because I
Really?
thought that... Yeah,
After last season?
Only because we beat Man City, and deservedly so, in the FA Cup final, and I thought...
You finished 8th on the table or something,
But I thought
didn't you?
there was enough signs maybe for the future, and instead Eric Ten Hag gets sacked and we're back in the same spot. So the point about the Black Caps is what? Look, overall the season results have been...
appalling.
They've just been what you'd expect. We're not a great side at the moment.
Well, when you look at the standard that they set in the... Now, granted, I know age catches up with players. These great eras for sports teams comes to an end.
219 side.
No, I agree. But at the end of the day, when you set a standard, this is the one thing that for whatever reason sports teams don't really do. Now, Alex Ferguson, we've talked about Man City them falling off the cliff this week. Alex Ferguson was brilliant at Manchester United where he saw the writing on the wall a year or two out from it. Okay, the All Blacks, for the most part in their team's history, has been pretty good. Even to be fair, the last couple of years, bar a pretty ordinary 2022. One thing you need to do as a sports team, whether you're the coach, you're the general manager, you're the owner of a team, or if it's a national body, you're the CEO of it, whatever. You've got to do everything you can when you get to a certain standard of performance that's really good, maintain it.
Yeah,
that includes not just massaging the current crop of players and coaches, bringing in the next generation.
So
as
you're
well.
glass half empty.
Of course I am. But
Glass half full, glass half empty on England, from what you saw.
Cricket.
Yeah.
Oh, glass half full because I thought they were ruthless, particularly in those first two tests. I would have liked to have seen them really go for the jugular on the third test and sweep us. But the kind of cricket that they play, and because it is real risk and reward stuff, you're going to get these results. They played 17 tests this year. They've won 9. They've lost 8. And they've had amazing periods where you think, wow, no team can live with them. And then they do what they did in Hamilton, right? And that is the same team. And that's what you will expect from this team if they continue to play this kind of test cricket. Yeah, I tell you what, because they killed us. But when you go back to the Ashes, for example, last year, they were embarrassed in the sense that not that Australia won all 5 and the margins were massive, but embarrassed in the sense that Australia took advantage of England's poor
they shot
strategy.
themselves in the foot so many times. Dumbass, yeah.
Whether I don't exactly think the series showed that they're more refined with that approach. I think it shows that when you take on a team that's not so good, they really get sizable wins.
When it's dumbass, then you get the...
But glass half full because they've got talent, and
Okay.
that talent, when it's on show, does well, and that excites you for a series against, say,
Glass
India or
half
Australia.
full, glass half empty for Allen. And I'll start with this.
Glass half empty.
I'm going glass half empty. I hope, and look, I don't mean this in a mean and nasty way because it's Christmas, but I hope that you never ever play for our country again, Finn Allen. You have turned your back on us. I don't ever want to see you wearing a silver fern again. I don't have any problem with you going and chasing the big bucks and playing all of that, but don't come snivelling back and wanting to play for our country. No, you're gone. You're gone. Be happy playing the T5s and the T10s and all these tournaments all around the world, cashing it up, but don't come back. As a fan, that's how I feel about it. Don't want to see him playing again.
Yeah, agreed. When he turned down that contract, it was a real...
It was a kick in the nuts,
it was a
mate,
sucker punch because he has a great talent that
we
needs
just
to...
invested all this money in you.
Yeah, that needs to fix a few things. But boy, there is a gem in there. There's an absolute diamond in the rough there.
Don't care anymore, mate.
Now, the thing is
You're
also...
Marcus Rashford, mate.
Yeah, hold up. He has departed New Zealand cricket. He's gone to play all these weeks because he's playing in the Big Bash League right now. He's going to play in some other leagues as well. He'll be in the IPL, all that whatnot. He's not going to be at teams that are actually going to sit there and spend time with him, or coaches that are actually going to help him improve his game, is he? They're going to go, great, here's this asset, let's throw this asset out there to do that. So he's not going to really improve as a cricketer. So if he keeps doing what he's doing now, because that match he played in the Big Bash League the other day where he smacked this incredible six off the first ball.
Absolute mirror image of the T20 World Cup against Afghanistan, where he tries to wog the first one for 6 and he goes out, mate. It was just 6
and then next ball he's bowled, which I think was Adam Milner bowled him as well.
Yeah.
But he's not going to improve or grow because he's going to be at these teams that aren't sitting there willing to do that. They just want to win their leagues, right?
And they just want to see.
And then the moment that they realise actually this guy isn't giving us what we need from a playing perspective, they're going to get rid of him. Yes! What happens then?
Glass half full, glass half empty with the love affair that is now Will O'Rourke.
Oh, glass half full.
That glass is brimming over the top, Mr. O'Rourke.
We need a few more glasses.
Yeah, look, and isn't it fantastic to see? There is no better sight, I don't think, in cricket anywhere in the world than watching a guy come in bowling scary. You know, it's not just fast, it's not just bounce, it's scary. And when Ben Stokes described it as that, he said, let the handbrake off, called them thunderbolts and everything else. There's no one on the planet wants to stand there and face 150 Ks at a rock that's coming towards you. You know, I mean, it's a fearful thing. That's the intimidating factor of being a paceman in
It's
Test
Brett
cricket.
Lee, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what Shane Bond should have been. You know, Cole Jamieson doesn't quite have that pace, but he has the fearsome element to it.
It was the Windies pace quartet that was just relentless and scary.
Now, the only issue is, and this is the pessimist in me, this is the cynical, nasty side of me. I don't want this to happen. I don't think it will, but when you think of Shane Bond injuries, you think of Cole Jamieson when he came on, his immediate impact in Test cricket was incredible. He was getting a 5-wicket bag every single innings, it seemed. But then injuries caught up to him, and we've barely seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I just hope that the same doesn't. You know, I'm knocking every bit of wood I can find.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, the physiology and the way of fixing you is a lot better, and the preparation's a lot better, and the warm up.
Well, Jameson was only a year.
I know.
He debuted in what 2020, 2019?
I don't want to keep this guy in cotton wool, but they've just got to make sure that he keeps bowling for us for 10 years. Glass half full, glass half empty. Our man Mitch Santner being the new white ball captain for New Zealand. I'm full on this. I like this.
Do you?
Yeah, look, he's
You've been pretty critical of Santner
and
as a player.
As his test bowling, yeah. I mean, up until he did that thing in India, he'd done nothing. But in the white ball form of the game, he's uncanny, mate. He doesn't look as though he's bowling anything, and yet he wheedles them out, and he's got great figures as far as the white ball cricket goes for New Zealand, and he can bat, as he showed us in that test match. So no, I think he's the right choice for captain. Actually, I like it.
I don't think there's an outstanding better choice.
There you go.
If it's the test
so
format,
go
it's a little
full.
bit different.
Give him a full.
Well, sure. Glass half full. I like Santner. I think he's one of the few.
Santner to me is one of those guys playing cricket, and there's lots of them that you think, I could be him. I think every cricket fan looks at him and goes, I could be him. I look like him. I'm about the same shape.
He's a slim bloke who wears glasses. You think, well, is that an athlete? Really?
Yes. Glass half full, glass half empty. New Zealand cricket's selectors and administration. I mean, the way I said that, obviously, I'm glass half empty on it.
Well,
they got the cushiest job in New Zealand sport. They just sit there and get a big fat check every 6 months from the BCCI. And the way that they have let
the cushiest job in New Zealand sport is sitting on that board at New Zealand Rugby. That's the cushiest job.
Well, I mean, the way that that they have backed off these players and the coach Gary Stead and let those players run the Black Caps like this is completely and utterly wrong. And as administrators, that your job is to run the sport, select the players, and the players play. Seize back some control.
Well, glass half empty as well.
Stop being pussies about it and tell them that you're in charge.
Sports teams are a good way of, their on-field performance tells you everything that's going on, at least from a coaching and a management perspective with the team.
True.
I mean, in terms of the CEO and the board, that's a little bit different. I think the Warriors from a couple of years ago were a good example that Andrew Webster was a spectacular coach, which I think all of that papered over some issues that might still be there in the management side of the entire franchise. But I think with New Zealand cricket, so the Southey, Neil Wagner, Gary Stead thing's really interesting. So Southey and Neil Wagner are really good mates, right?
So are they still?
Well, no, they are. So. Apparently they are. Right. Apparently they're really, really good mates.
I hope so.
But Gary Stead said in that stand-up a week or so ago that he didn't know anything about the Neil Wagner situation, which suggested that Tim Southey told Wagner to retire. But if they're really good mates...
Yeah. Gary Stead was all over it,
So
mate.
Gary Stead was all over it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So people are ducking for cover and batting away.
No
one's taking ownership. So when it comes to the selection of the team, the performance of it, who's sitting there taking it?
No one is, mate. And that's why I say glass half empty. 2 to go. Glass half full, glass half empty. White Ferns.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. They won the World Cup, but we know that they are not that great a side.
But they won the World Cup, though.
They won the World Cup, absolutely. Greece won the Euros in 2004.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can't take it away from them. And finally, I'm just throwing this one in because look at the look on his face when I say this.
Don't.
Glass half full, glass half empty. The Warriors making the 8.
Now, do you want the truthful answer? They're not making the 8.
Here we go.
They're not making the 8.
Right,
seriously,
okay.
clip it. The Warriors.
Seriously?
You've got to think of all of the teams in the NRL that missed the 8.
Look at our squad,
Yeah,
mate.
it's not a good squad. Look at their best 17. Look at your spine.
Look at our 6 and 7.
Who are your 6 and 7?
I'm not sure.
Now, granted, people will point the finger and say, you're a Broncos fan.
Yeah,
Your team was rubbish last year.
Look at the hat.
I am a Broncos fan. They are my team.
You are rubbish last year. You got drunk drivers crashing into cars.
Yeah,
you got pork chops with their shirts off everywhere,
No,
hassling people, stealing phones in
Bali.
Bali.
There's a new rule in camp. Madge has said no shirts off in training.
Oh, that's going to make a massive difference, isn't it?
It could make a difference. Little things, man, little things. But you look at all the teams.
I'll say it right
Rabbitohs?
now. Warriors make it,
The
Broncos miss it.
Rabbitohs? Oh, you okay. Tell me you don't watch rugby league without telling me you don't watch rugby league. Come on, the Warriors are not a better team than the Broncos. If the Warriors
See,
make
you
the
just gotta
8,
start, and
Brisbane
away
has
goes
absolutely made the 8. You know, this Warriors side, I love Angie Webster. There's some good players in that team. That's not a top 8 roster.
Top 8.
Oh, gosh.
Heard it here first. Every Thursday on the DSPN, courtesy of JK's World of Golf, open 24/7 at Auckland Airport. Brendan Telfer joins us, the doyen, 50 years of experience in this business, looking back at another big, wild and wonderful year of sport, mate.
Those wouldn't be the adjectives that I'd fall on.
Come
actually.
on, Brendan, the Olympics, you're still basking in that.
It was a very strange year because it was a very disappointing year. There were more disappointments than triumphs.
All right,
really.
run through them in that case.
And standing out, better be careful of the language you use here. Standing out on its own, really, with the Olympic Games. But you look at the disappointments we had. I suppose we'll just touch on them briefly. Male sports teams had a bad year, didn't they? The All Blacks.
Yeah, the All Blacks weren't great, but they were okay.
The Warriors, even the Black Caps, I'm sorry, okay, that historic series against India will be one of the hallmarks of New Zealand cricket for years to come. But they got towed up by Sri Lanka. They've been thumped twice by England. Okay, they won a meaningless test the other day. I think Bangladesh beat them, or it might have been in December last year when they were here. So, and continuing that terrible run of male sports teams, the Breakers. What are they at the moment? 0-6.
Yeah, no, they've lost 5 in a row or something like that. Yeah,
And also, on contrast to that, you look at the women who've had some fantastic year. Our cricketers, our rugby players,
well,
our
our
sevens.
cricketers outside of winning the World Championship. Okay,
Yeah.
Sevens, of course, gold medals, but they're favourite to do that.
Yeah, I know. But so I'm saying, just in contrast, the men have struggled in a lot of our national teams, and the women have had success. But the Olympic Games was the interesting one, I suppose. I can recall vividly from a couple of very reliable sources inside the New Zealand Olympic Committee. They didn't even go public with their predictions because they felt that they probably wouldn't win any more than about 10 or 12 medals in Paris, and we won 20.
Wow.
In fact, they won 10 gold medals.
Incredible.
Extraordinary. And
most of those were women that were winning them for us, mate.
Exactly. You look at the rowers, you look at the yachties, you look at the canoeists, you look at the
Black Ferns,
cyclists.
sevens,
and the
cyclists.
sevens. But 20 medals, 10 gold medals. And so, but for me, the single moment, the most vivid moment, and I suppose it's because I'm a pathetic, tragic golfer, was Lydia Ko winning the British Open in that appalling weather at St Andrews, the home of golf. It's still the most sought-after title in golf, whether it's men's majors or women's majors. And the women don't have a Masters to play for every year. They should, and hopefully in a few years' time they will go to Augusta and have a Masters, but they don't at the moment. And so the British Open, or the Open Championship, as we correctly should call it, the Open Championship, is the most sought-after title. She hadn't won a major for 10 years. It was appalling conditions. In the last couple of holes, here's this tiny little 50-kilogram woman trying to hit this golf ball into this kind of storm, and she played 2 fantastic shots on the 17th and 18th, and behind her in the group was Nelly Korda, by far and away the best female golfer in the world this year, and got Player of the Year because she won 7 times on the US Tour. But Lydia held her off with 2 remarkable shots and won the British Open. And a few weeks earlier, she had won the Olympic Games gold medal. And so those 2 performances for me. So translating that into the Hellbergs, I would say right now that she should win Sportswoman of the Year, and she should win the overall.
Okay, just before you say that, though, is it too easy to not dismiss but relegate Lisa Carrington's achievements purely because she just keeps achieving at that level?
No. I would. I don't like.
I don't know how you split those two. I really don't.
Well, I don't like the word relegate, but I think you've got to. It's a bit like, I suppose, in a football match. If all the scores are tied and everything's tied, you go back, or in cricket match, you go back. You go on a count back. And Lisa Carrington, like Lydia Ko, won 1 single gold medal at the Olympic Games. She won 2 in boats, in teams events. Yep. But you could say, well, she won 3 gold medals. Lydia only won 1. Why would you put Lydia's performance above that of Carrington? And it's a fair enough argument. I would then go to the next level and say, sadly, without wishing to sound like a smart prick, that golf is a internationally a far
Yeah,
bigger
that's
sport.
That's fine. That's
Yeah,
fair, and that's fine. And you can't argue against
exactly.
that. No, you can't.
And the same I'd say for Elise Andrews in cycling. Cycling is a big sport. We know that. Track cycling, it's really road cycling is where it's at in cycling these days, and it's where the money,
It's certainly where the cash
where the
is, yeah.
money and
It's
the
where
drugs and
money
everything else
right,
is.
yeah.
But she won 3 medals at the Olympic Games as
2
well.
golds, yeah.
So it'll be. I think there is going to be some real upsets at the Hellberg
Plus,
Awards.
you've got the Black Ferns sevens.
The
and
Black Ferns,
you
and
can't.
you've got the women cricketers.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
On the men's side of it, I just can't go past, and it's just because I love this guy and I love watching him compete and what he went through at the Olympics to Hamish Kerr.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Brendan, you're a historian who loves the Olympics. This is one of the events at the Olympics.
is.
Ever since Fosbury turned that thing into
the flop. Yeah.
Okay. To me, it's like Beeman winning the long.
Well, there is inside athletics is there's gold medals and there's gold medals.
Yeah, right.
So some poor guys out there walking for 50 kilometres for 3.5 hours around the suburbs of Paris and no one's watching them, and it's still a gold medal. But inside the stadium is where it's at, on the track and the
Olympic
field.
purist, you've got to say that.
And even in the ranking of field events, I think high jump has always been the kind of a very sexy kind of thing. It's showing yourself off. It's very physical.
Well, no, what it is to me is it's like, when you break sports down, I always just say the fastest man on the planet, 100-metre runner, the heavyweight champion of the world who can just punch you out.
The highest,
who
the
can jump the
furthest,
highest, who can throw the longest. These are those events, aren't they, that just say, okay, everyone thinks they can actually do that. But to be the one person on the planet who can do it better than everyone else, and the pressure that he put himself under with qualifying and everything else.
It came down to one qualifying jump in the end, which he missed it to 2:20, which was a piece of cake for someone like him. But he finally got it on his last attempt in the qualifying round, and then went on, and of course then had to go through the jump off with the Americans
and decided not to split the medal, Brendan. I mean, how big are the nuts to do that? Because I think if it was me, I probably would have gone, I've got a gold already, I'll probably take that.
Yeah.
But he decided because it had been done before, he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So again,
Great story.
Great story.
I think he will win overall. Other things I'd mention in passing. I think it only came through yesterday, didn't it? This business with Liam Lawson now.
Looks as though he's got a right.
The backup driver for Verstappen in the Red Bull team.
Yeah, and
how many millions is he going to get for that?
This is. We see you always equate everything to money because it's golf.
It's sport. Yeah.
I just look at.
You work here for nothing.
We do need sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. So, DM us. We'd be absolutely delighted if you could jump on board that way. But I look at Liam Lawson and Chris Wood especially.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you quantify those guys in terms of any awards, but what they've both managed to do from New Zealand to get themselves up to that level. The Premier League is the biggest football league in the world.
Yeah.
Liam Lawson, F1 is the biggest motor racing in the world. You can't get bigger,
but,
right?
Again, bringing you back to the Hellbergs, I just hope that the panel, and this is where management is important, look at what's happened in some of these sporting events this year, despite the fact that I was banging on about the disappointments in the sports men and sports women categories. There is a case possibly for extending the number of finalists to 5, and it has happened in the past. I've been on panels when we're thinking, well, there's 4, but you can't leave this person out. They're as good as the other 4.
Sure.
And so you go back and you say, right, the world isn't going to stop spinning on its axis because you have 5 finalists in one particular year. And that may well be the case this year because there are so many, as you and I have just touched on, so many performances which are very hard to separate, but they come in very different sports. Put them all in. And the other thing you've got to I think bear in mind here is the panel is weighted, not deliberately, it's just the way the numbers have turned out, with a lot of ex-Olympians on the judging panel now.
This is their chance to put their sport in the limelight.
And over the years, sports like rugby and golf haven't had much sort of return from a lot of these Olympians because, they're not really part of the Olympic Games. Well, rugby is now, and it's been very successful, and golf has established itself as one of the high-profile sports very quickly on the Olympics. So they can't turn their noses at some of these judges at sports like golf and rugby anymore. They've got to recognise the fact that in their own backyard, they've won gold medals.
All right, let's finish on this. And we spoke to Jamie Ward about this earlier. I started the show talking about this as well. To me, as a New Zealand sports fan, the single most important fixture and achievement next year is the All Blacks beating the Springboks, and especially at Eden Park. with
Yeah,
that
for sure.
unbeaten
Yeah,
record.
yeah,
That's above everything else.
That's the benchmark for 2025
It
for
has
the
to
All
be,
Blacks,
doesn't it?
and
Yeah.
for Robertson as well.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned the America's Cup either, which I think we should, because
Yeah,
there's one
true.
important point about the America's Cup. We're disconnected from it, aren't we? I've always loved the America's Cup here,
Yeah,
but,
you're right.
I watched it in Barcelona, but there was a connection missing. And
Well, it's always difficult when it's in the middle of the night for a start.
that doesn't help.
That doesn't
But
help.
a long way from home, and I don't think it'll come back to New Zealand.
No,
and
it'll
there'll
be Saudi Arabia
and there'll be
next,
a
mate.
lot. No, it won't be Saudi Arabia. I don't think. I have a feeling it'll be somewhere in Europe. It won't be Spain, but it could be somewhere else. But the fact that it's not in New Zealand means that it won't be back here, I think, ever. And there's a lot of people who are very upset with Dalton for not having the America's Cup as the defender in New Zealand. But I say this is a double standard as well. Do we complain about Ryan Fox, who never plays in golf tournaments in New
we
Zealand?
don't, no.
Do we complain about Scott Dixon, who never races around Hampton Downs or Pukekohe?
But those
So
guys
why
haven't
should-
because they haven't had the taxpayer investment, and this is the thing, and I always argued about this, when the taxpayers spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this, not just infrastructure, but also on that campaign, that boat and everything else, we feel ownership of it, right?
Well, I don't think in the end Dalton got any money from the New Zealand team. He didn't get enough. They didn't offer him enough, so he went elsewhere, went to Spain. But so good luck to Dalton. I mean, it's a fact of life. All our top sportsmen and women, teams or individuals,
They go overseas.
They've got to earn their money and they spend their
Apart
life
from
overseas.
the All Blacks, all our cricketers now, half of them are turning down contracts because they'd rather play overseas and earn all of this money. So, all right. Have a very happy Christmas and a
Same
safe
to you,
New
Mike.
Year.
Yeah.
And has the golf handicap come down this year? Because as you
No,
get
it doesn't come down at my age. No, it goes out. That's sad, it's the realisation. My arms are not as strong as they used to be. I can't hit the ball as far as I used to go. But so you change your values. I used to play golf because I was very selfish and all I was concerned about was my score. I didn't care what the other members in the group were doing. Now I'm into this thing called social camaraderie while I'm playing golf.
Oh my God, it's even happened to you.
I'll
mate.
leave the building now.
It's even happened to you.
Yeah. But age, Martin, it's going to descend upon you shortly.
Merry Christmas, mate.
Devlin.
That's our podcast and show for today. Again, if you're liking what you're listening and what you're seeing, then a small favour, if you will. Can you please hit like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend about it. We are a fledgling podcast and show, the DSPN, and we need you. And if you are participating, well, just click that subscribe button. That would help enormously. Thank you so much if you already have. Again, tell a friend if you like. We're doing this every single day, putting out a show every afternoon. The DSPN.
This is the DSPN.